Hey everybody, Kemetia Foley here, and welcome to today's Executive Secretary Live Admin Chat. It's November 7th, and I'm thrilled to be with you guys as we can't believe it's already November, or almost November, right, when I'm recording this. So really a thrill to be here today to talk to you something that's a little bit more personal, but also I think quite relevant to many in our career field. And we're talking about building networks when you move to a new job and to a new city. Right? Something new and completely different. Building a network when you're moving to a new job or a new city. And of course, I am talking from personal experience, having recently relocated from Washington, D.C. metro area to seacoast of Maine. And totally different cultures, lots of interesting life learning experiences, but I thought that maybe not only the advice that I had sought out from colleagues and friends who had moved to new cities for new jobs, and even the folks that I've met through conferences who have moved their entire company to a new city. Right? That's amazing. People expect that administrative professionals are used to chaos and mastering change, but when you're going through that upheaval all at the same time, a resource network can be something that can help take some of that stress off your shoulders, and certainly been the case in my experience. So today I'm really excited to kind of share this topic with you guys because I think our profession is becoming more mobile as the profession itself changes to be more dynamic, more fluid in terms of, it's not your standard job anymore. Then I think that, the ability to pick up and move to where the jobs are or to where you really want to be. So it benefits you if you're somebody who's thinking about working on your own as a virtual assistant, or you've always wanted to, which is sort of our case, we've always wanted to live by the beach. So, what do you do to make that happen, and what networks will help you get there and get a job and find housing and all those things that come into it. But as it relates to the administrative profession, which is what we're all about today, I really kind of just wanted to share some insights and tips and tricks that I have learned through this process with you guys. And hopefully, if you think of something that you have benefited from, or you know someone who has moved and they've had an opportunity to share their experience with you, then please do put it in the YouTube comments so that we can share with everyone, because this is what Admin Chat is all about, sharing our experience and what we learn from one another. We don't have all the answers, but we certainly can help each other out. So let's get started. I'd like to say that upheaval from a move is incredible, and I think for most administrative professional friends in my circle, the biggest challenge we had faced when we moved was a disruption of routine. That's right, disruption of routine. That old expression, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, is not true, but it is something that it does impact you. If you are used to, or if you've worked for your organization for a long time, you do get into a routine with the people that you work for. You know how to expect their reactions, you know how to process all that, and you can't really prepare for that. But you can tell yourself that you need to be okay with your routine being disrupted. Just acknowledge and accept, hold it in and be like, okay, I want to do this, and this change is something I want and I'm looking forward to, but it's going to disrupt my routine, and I'm going to need to get comfortable with not being comfortable. So think about that first and foremost when you're getting there. The second thing to think about is, why are you in need of a network? Is it for a job search? do you already have a job where you're going and you need to kind of understand the culture? Do you need to know what the dress kind of code is? Because let's face it, working in New York City or LA or San Diego is different than working, in a more chill environment, say. If you're working for stereotypical, they say, if you work for a tech company, you can wear jeans. If you're working for a company in Washington, D.C., it's changed a lot, but it used to be straight up black suits all the time. And when I moved from D.C. to Maine, one of the hardest things I've had to do is adjust my wardrobe. To be I can still wear my suits. There's nobody who says that I can't wear my suits, but it brings more attention to what I'm wearing instead of what I'm doing. So trying to make those adjustments. Why do you need a network? Do you just want to build a good group of friends to go out with sometimes? Do you want to meet people who like the same kind of volunteer work that you do in your previous city? So be sure you understand why it is that you're building your network, and it'll help drive you to where you want to go in terms of making those connections. I think the other thing is focus on your foundation. So when I say focus on foundation before you build a network, where is the foundation that you're coming from? So for me, my foundation would be IAAP, because that's where I built my career, right? I started in 2001 with the organization as a member. I took on eventual volunteer duties and committees and chapters. We had chapters and branch director, and now I'm a branch director here in the Seacoast. But that has been a foundation of my resource network. I can reach out to any of my peers and colleagues in those cities that I've known for years and ask questions and ask them for things that I need. And focus on the foundation of the work that I do. What is the foundation of work that I have done in my career? Has it been focused more on as the British would say, diary or calendar keeping? Has been focused more on event planning? Has been focused more on travel arrangements? So for me, I've always, since pretty much always, with rare exception, had more than one supervisor, more than one boss. And so my foundation is using the tools, continue to use the tools that I have and know to work and communicate with those two supervisors consistently, as I have throughout my career. And moving into a new job or a new city, you're going to need to understand a little bit of the context about where your new supervisors are coming from, what their commute is like, what the commute in your city is like. So work from the foundation of things that you already use on a daily basis. For me, that means I did a lot of work surrounding timing, how long it takes people to get from one place to another. What kind of delays did we used to encounter? What kind of delays did we encounter with caterers? All of those things are the kind of foundational questions that I would need my resource network to help me with in my new city and my new job. So that's great. The next thing I think, let me just think about this for a minute while I was thinking about it before I forget. What kind of network do you need, and do you need more than that? Are you looking to, once you have your foundation and you know what you have, is there something in that you want to change? So I've had several colleagues throughout our friendship who have moved from being straight up executive assistants to moving into the meeting and event side of their companies. And so moving into that is a different culture, and it's a different, whether it's the same company or not, it's still a change in culture. It's a different focus of your work. and the detail required for it is probably comparable, but if not exponentially tougher in volume for event planning. And so if you want to go there and that's what you're interested in moving towards, maybe that's the kind of resource network that you want to build in your new city or your new position. It's you want to focus more on that. But let's start with our current network. Who knows who? So you're moving to a new city, and I was moving from Virginia to Maine, and who knows who? So the first thing I did was think of the people that who know people in New England. I have family here, but they're not anywhere in the field that I work in, or had those kind of connections for me. So that wasn't going to be an option. I needed to build a network of people who could help me locate a position of work that I wanted and would be and be able to tell me a little bit more about what it is to expect when you're working in this new city. What's the culture? What's the pay like? Well, that we can look up. That's easy to do. And we'll cover that in just a second. Reach out to family, friends, coworkers. Start with that. If you're on good terms as you're leaving your current position to move to your new one, there's nothing wrong with asking, hey, do you know anybody up in this area of the country that I could connect with? Can you make an introduction? I used actually Twitter. Not a big surprise to some of you because you know how much I love Twitter. But I did actually, one of the chats that I participate in on a regular basis, Social Road Trip, it's hashtag social road trip, and I actually put out there, hey, we're getting ready to move to Maine, and is there anybody going that way or up that way? It's on the chat that I could talk with, separately outside the chat. And several folks reached out, and it was great. So that really worked out well. So how are you going to reach out? Family, friends, coworkers, and then you're going to think about really the core. Who have you met at training, at conferences? So this is kind of like a current network. Who is in your current network that you work with on a regular basis that you trust? That's kind of the key word there. Do you value and trust and respect their opinion and their insights? You may know someone casually through, meetings or through briefly met at maybe a conference or a workshop, but have you maintained that relationship and do you trust their insight and introspection? Do you feel comfortable reaching out to them and saying, hey, by the way, I know we don't know each other very well, you haven't worked with me, but I'm moving, and if you have any connections up in the Portland, Maine area, I would really appreciate it. And so having some of those key initial current network pieces help you expand upon it. That makes sense. So reaching out to those that are currently, that I know well, that had, to see if they had connections in this area, either at HR or peers that were already working in our field. Did they know much about the commuting situation in this area? Could they direct me to somebody who did? You can always use the resources that are online, but firsthand trusting experience generally means, that you have a better sense and you feel a better comfort level with that network that you're building. How does that affect you when you're moving within a large company instead of just, moving from a new city to a new job? Think about the dynamics of the department that you currently work in and what are your current resources there. So for me, every position that I have worked in, it has been important to me, and I think every EA I know and admin I know, to build a solid, respectful rapport and network with your IT staff. You have to sometimes a resort to bribery, right? You flat out buy them Chipotle, or you're buying them bags of M&Ms, or you just have that really good understanding that you're not going to abuse the privilege of the boss's title to get the help that you need when you're struggling with an IT issue. So when you're in a company moving from a department to another department, that's definitely a network you want to maintain and build upon. And understand the dynamic of how that relationship works in your new department. Let them know that you're moving departments, that you're still going to be the same person, that you're going to might reach out to them for some additional questions, especially if there's new software or technology involved in your new position. And that's where that current network is really going to be invaluable when you're moving from within a company. Say you're moving from within a company from one side of the country to the other. So who's your current network right now? If you have an EA team at your organization, please utilize it. Please really keep connected to that, because that's really going to be your best solid resource initially anyways. And then the HR team, obviously your network there, if you have any connections. Do you have people in the area of the company who are located in both facilities? So maybe they're located in the Washington, D.C. facility, you're going to L.A., and they have, they've worked both, that's part of their job, that's their job, to work in both locations. And so maybe you can reach out to that colleague or that team member to say, hey, I'm moving out to LA permanently. Would you have some time to talk with me, 15 minutes, to give me some insights about, the differences between the two office cultures? Nothing wrong with doing that. If they start to gossip about somebody, you know how to cut that off. We're all been in that position where, well, you don't want to work at that department because that person's really challenging to work with. We're professionals. Yes, we always have somebody that, maybe is not our best friend at work, but we still have to get the work done. And so just take their advice for what it's worth and then tuck it away. What about outside of your company? What if you are moving outside your company and you're moving outside your city, and it's a whole big move, like we just did this summer. So we moved in June of 2019, and I began work at my new position in September. So all that time I was connected into my network of admins and administrative professional peers, but I was also reaching out on a regular basis to connections that I had made in Maine previously, both through Twitter, through Facebook, and through sessions and workshops. But when I got here, what I realized is that I need, not only for me personally to have a network of resources as an admin, but, we talk about balance and self-care in this field. I needed a network of people who did volunteer work that I was interested in, who did the kind of storytelling boot camps that I do, love of music, the things that bring you joy that you were connected to in your previous city. You may not have that automatic connection in your new city or even in your new job. So the first thing I did was look into our local Chamber of Commerce here in our county. And it's very, the population is very small. So, for example, we worked and lived in Fairfax County, Virginia, which has the same population as the entire state of Maine. The entire state of Maine. Let me repeat that. 1 million people in Fairfax County, and about the same population for the entire state here. So it's different, right? There's not as many people. The commute is a lot easier. But then you're also looking at the the cities are farther between. So if you're used to a big city culture environment and you're looking to network into that kind of a city-to-city peer thing, you're going to have to connect to people in the city. So I started looking into the chambers of commerce for Portland and locally here in our county here, and just kind of trying to reach out and connect. Sent a bunch of emails off to administrative assistants listed, in their listings for the towns. I'm just trying to build that kind of peer network, but also to say, hey, this is something that I'm really interested in. Do you have any idea where I could do this kind of volunteer work in the city? Now, in the smaller areas, the smaller cities, Facebook page has been great. So perhaps maybe you find a Facebook group that works for you. So you started with your current network, people that you already knew that you could ask for their resources, their suggestions, their connections, to make connections. And now you're going to go outside that known group and start connecting with people that you don't know directly. Chambers of commerce, volunteer opportunities. Had you previously worked with Big Brothers Big Sisters in the town that you were in? Perhaps you worked with United Way, or you worked with any number of volunteer, Habitat for Humanity. That's pretty much everywhere in the United States, and you can tie back into that organization and volunteer work. When you volunteer, you are building yourself a new network of colleagues and friends. I have not had an opportunity to do much volunteer work here since we moved, but I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'll get there. It's just a lot to do. It is a short amount of time that we've been here. What else can you do to build that network? How about social channels? LinkedIn is just an amazing place. You can stick with the groups that you know, or you can reach out to entirely new organizations. Or maybe if you're job hunting and you see, that's, one of the things that I did was looked on LinkedIn for jobs that fit a certain criteria in the area that we're living in. Because that's where they're looking, and I changed the status on my LinkedIn account to say that I was looking for employment in that area. And did some outreach to different, look at the companies that were in that area and look at the organizations and what was I interested in working at and what were the things that were important to me. And, Twitter, one of the first things that happened was the state of Maine has their convention and bureau folks on Instagram, and so I was following them on Instagram and just on the side pulled that information for that person, sent them a message saying, hey, we're getting ready to move. Turned out they weren't actually located anywhere near the area that we're living in, but they sent me along to some other resources to check out for Maine. So don't overlook the ability to reach out to social. Just be cautious about how you do it. So you don't want to obviously announce the date that you're moving. You want to be careful about your personal security. I did a lot of direct messaging, or I would find their information online on social and then contact them by email. So you just need to make sure that you're being safe with it. You don't want to announce to the whole world that you're packing up your house, but you're not going to be there for 3 months until you move. Right? So, and then the other thing, as I think about a way to connect that's relevant for our profession, is when you have to do site visits for meetings. And I know so many of us, probably a majority of us, have to do that for part of our job. And so not long ago in my new position, I had to reach out to some of the local hotels. And as I was concluding my work-related work with these folks call, I'd say, if you don't mind, I'd like to call you back or keep in touch with you related to some other potential meetings. Can I come by and do a site visit another time? Can we network at some other event? To try to make sure that that's something that value is not only just for you when you've moved, because now you're going to have a place where friends and family can stay if they come visit. You're going to know the site. You're going to know the hotel property well. You're going to have good relationship with the hotel property, but you're also going to have that in your back pocket when you are doing work for meeting sites for your company. A lot of the smaller firms don't have meeting planners. They count on the executive assistant or administrative team to do that sort of work for them. And so having those meeting sites and building the network with sales managers of local hotels and caterers is going to be really important for success for you. And it can benefit you personally as well in some cases, right? You can maybe get a better rate for your family when they come to visit. You just never know. Let's see. So now we've talked about using your own internal resources, looking outside those resources. And now the most important one, I think, in terms of building a network is your company, the company you are working for. So the current company you're working for, and hopefully you're going straight to another company for your job, or within the same company, is understanding the culture of the company that you're working at. So I'm going to use the example of moving from one nonprofit to another nonprofit in a new city. When you are getting settled in and you focused on your tasks and actually doing your job well, because that's really the most important thing right off the bat. Definitely keeping some side notes about, I need to talk to this person about this idea or this question or whatever. But when it comes to that all-time favorite administrative event, holiday party, right? I mean, is there an admin team network inside your own company? And if not, are you the person who can start it? Are you the person who can say, okay, I'm not going to do this right now because I've just started this job, but down the road, this is something I think would really benefit the organization and also allow me to build some leadership and collaborative skills. So for those of you who know Kathy Harris in South Africa, she's got a wonderful session that she does on building an internal PA network. So that's something to consider, right? So that's, is there an admin network? And what better way to build a network than to start one, right? You reach out to your colleagues, you say, hey, I think we could share resources here. Would you want to meet up for a brown bag? Nothing serious. Let's just meet over lunch. Start it that way and go from there and see how it benefits you and your organization. And then it becomes your own network. What are the company's social opportunities? Now, are there... Some people love to decorate and set up parties for their company, like the holiday function, or if they have a monthly birthday recognition or an awards recognition, opportunity in their company. Is that important to you? Is it something you enjoy? You can use that as a volunteer opportunity to get to know people in your new company better, and get to know, kind of the feel and the culture of, get that sixth sense of what the organization is really like, and getting to know people that you're going to have to work with or hopefully get to work with, like you want to work with them, not have to work with them. You want to work with them for the next, however many years you're in that employ. What about community opportunities? Does your company have a social, corporate social responsibility program? Do they have a day when they take the team out to do a cleanup of an elementary school or a high school? Do they have a day where they, all pitch in for Habitat for Humanity or a soup kitchen? Is that something that is valuable to you already? Then join in and take that opportunity to not only do good and feel good, but also connect with others within your own company who obviously feel the same way. It's rare to find an organization that doesn't have any volunteer opportunities. And of course, the all-time favorite, which is Helen Reese, talking about Marwell Zoo and their choir. So does your company have a choir? Do you love to sing? Join in on that. That's a thought. One of the things that I did over this last year, which was a huge, huge leap of faith for me personally, was to join a choir at a conference. So I was at Social Media Marketing World this past March, and that's a big conference for social media professionals. It's held out in San Diego. They have a choir every year. Now, before I had attended an Executive Secretary Live conference, I had never seen a choir at a conference, ever. And I'm not really one for singing in public. Shower in the car. But the opportunity presented itself. I knew no one at this I knew one person at this conference who was a speaker, and he was too busy. Really, he was swamped to be able to, socialize with me. And I'm an adult, so how do I figure out how am I going to meet people and get to know people when I feel kind of overwhelmed at this conference? And the choir thing came up, and I was like, And they said, if you do the choir, you get a free t-shirt. So I was like, I can do this. And I did. And it was one of the scariest things I've ever done because I knew no one in the choir. I knew no one at the conference hardly. And then I left that conference not only with a new t-shirt, but with a handful of new friends who were in the choir with me. And so I can give a shout out to Helen Reese for that. So think about those work and community opportunities that your company provides. My previous employer, American Staffing Association, we always had a volunteer day, where we could, it was part of the corporate culture, you could take a day, a volunteer at an organization of your choice. I could go to, the homeless shelter, or I could work at a soup kitchen or whatever, if I so chose to do so and not have to take a day of leave for it. It was an approved, sanctioned day of volunteering as part of the company culture, which I thought was really cool. So maybe your company has that. Maybe if they don't, maybe it's something you suggest. So there are a lot of different ways to build a network, and for administrative professionals, if we're looking just straight at the field, we need it for the vast amount of acreage we cover in terms of ground we have to cover at our jobs, travel, visas, security, cost savings, time crunches, turnaround in new software, learning new software, implementing new tools, understanding digital things, understanding digital products, understanding the digital age, the virtual assistant, virtual reality, all of those things, augmented reality, they're all coming at us all the time, and we are expected to adapt. And so having that network, whether you've moved cities or jobs or not, is so important to all of us in terms of maintaining relevancy in our position and staying competitive in the field. So let's wrap it up from some of the tips that we took away from today's admin chat. The first one being, start where you are. Start with the resources you already have and ask. I'm moving to a new job. I'm moving to a new city. And direct your questions appropriately. Now, again, I encourage you to use the folks that you know, trust, and respect their insights. Don't really, just throw it out there on the company job board or discussion board and say, hey, you can if that's something you're comfortable with, but I encourage you to know the people that you're asking this to get this information from, to make a real, genuine connection from person to person. Start with your foundation. Know why you're asking for a network, what you need it for. Be upfront with people about why you're asking for this connection or this introduction. LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook are all very valuable for that reason. I know somebody through Twitter. I've met somebody through Twitter who knew somebody who owns a private coffee, a small independent coffee shop here up in our area. And once I realized that it wasn't far a drive, then I made my way on social to say, hey, I know you know Tim, and I know you know Tim, and I know Tim, so how about I'd love to come see your coffee shop because he's talked about it. And so I built a connection that way. So start with what you know and who you know and who can help you there. Then look to your outside resources. What's around your city? What are your city resources or your town resources? Do you have a town Facebook page? Is there a town community bulletin? Is there a coffee shop in your town that has, or city that has, all the cool events and different things? Is there a community college that you could check into in terms of building a network? All of those things. Chamber of Commerce and community volunteer opportunities, things that happen in your community that you can pitch in. And then last, pardon me, using your company resources. So what are the company opportunities for you to build connections? Whether you're within the same company or going to a new company, what are those opportunities presented to you? You get first people you'll meet when you move to a new job as an admin are IT and HR. And then your supervisors. So, building time with those folks and letting them know what kind of resources you would need, what's available to you, why, what are the kind of volunteer things that they've done. Can they tell you a little bit about, do you guys dress up for... Some companies really get into Halloween, right? Some companies really get into Halloween. And so, one of the first things I kind of set to the side on this HR coordinator that I met, and I said, do they do Halloween big here? Is it a big deal here? Do people dress up? Because I want to know that inside. Is that a really strong cultural thing? I'm not a big Halloween person. Sorry. But I know, some companies, it's a really big deal. Don't know why. Don't care. But having that resource within your company and saying, are there other volunteer opportunities? Are there other things that we do as a team? Do we do Habitat for Humanity? Do we take a day of service? Do we have a day of volunteer service available to us? Are there people, is there an administrative network in place? And then, kind of feel out. Is this something, ask your other admin colleagues. Is this something you'd be interested in, meeting once a month as a brown bag to do? And then you could start developing your own internal EA network or admin network. But think about why you want to network. So for me, in my own personal experience, it was moving from a completely different culture, DC to Maine, Maine is a lot more relaxed, I can tell you that. And I needed to know the culture of the towns the companies I was looking at. I needed to have connections at companies that I was interested in applying to jobs at, and who knew who there, who could make an introduction. Change my LinkedIn status so I could reach out to HR personnel in the Maine area, and now I'm at the point where I'm like focused on my job. Of course, I've only been in it since September, but the key is now, like, what are the volunteer opportunities that the organization I work for provides? Are there opportunities for me to volunteer? Are there opportunities for me to contribute? Are there people here that I've met at this new position and this new job that have similar interests? Like, I could ask around and say, hey, do you like going to the theater? Do you like going to concerts? Are you interested in going to classes for community college, or advancing degrees, or taking an interest class in something that's completely outside your comfort zone, but building that network at the same time? And it's not for the faint of heart, right? Because there's nothing harder than I think we revert to being like kindergartners or first graders. We're going into our first day of school and we don't know anyone. And there's no teacher there to hold our hand and say, oh, come meet so-and-so. There may be a really super awesome HR person who is that kind of connector. But odds are they're not. And so you're going to have to do it yourself and find out, like, okay, who's the most important person? For me, in my opinion, in any admin's work is IT. There's going to be some of the first people that you build a rapport and a network with when you move into a new job in a new city, so that you have a good solid resource to go to when you're in a jam. That's just my opinion. And then work on building those connections with your administrative colleagues and the people that you support, and kind of get to know the city and the people that you're working with. It takes time. It's not easy, but it can be done. And so I say to you, for today's admin chat, build that network in your new job in a new city. Start with what you know, who you know currently. Move to the outside organizations, chambers of commerce, volunteer groups. Maybe it's church or religious affiliation. Those volunteer organizations, and then go to the company resources to build a network. The volunteer opportunities provided to you within your company, the gatherings, the social events that are provided within your company, to build those networks of folks that you can come to work alongside, respect and understand their point of view, and then be able to rely on them and their insight when you are needing assistance from them. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. I was a little bit hesitant to share this because I thought it was a little too personal. Like, who cares if we should move to a new city? But I thought the experience may benefit some folks, and why not share what we've learned from experience? And I want to thank my colleagues who are well aware of how long and how hard it takes to do that kind of work. It does take time, but you can do it. If I can, you can. So, I look forward to your comments and questions, and you know how to reach me. Oh, and just as a last minute thing, speaking of professional development, building networks, I asked my new supervisor. Now, mind you, I just started this job. I said, I have a professional development day allotted to me as part of my work. I know I've just started here. However, there's something that I would really like to attend. and it's November 15th, and it's a Friday, and I'm hoping you'll approve this time off for me to go take this professional development opportunity. And for those of you who know, it's happening on November 15th, which is a week from when you see this video. Yeah, I hope to see you all in Atlanta. So if you haven't met me, and let's take an opportunity to build our network while I'm in Atlanta at Executive Secretary Live. So the other way to reach me is on my blog, adminrenegade.com. So thanks again. Have a great week, everybody.